My name is Curtis Bivens, and I work with the Nutrien. I focus on the seed part of our division and of our company. In keeping with the theme of everything you've heard today, we still want to talk about the systems approach. And so the systems approach we'll be honing in on today. We'll be talking about how we make decisions on making our seed selections and how we do that with our fertility and some of the things we look at, so that we're talking to make sure that we understand we address our limiting factors. And so you say, well, what's more of the limiting factors? Do I pick the right seed for the right soil, or do I pick the right soil for the right seed? Well, it's kind of like what's first, the chicken or the egg. So you got to have both to go, right? And so we decided we'd talk about the seed first, and then Lang will dive down into some of the context of the fertility issues. So seed selection, the systems approach to building bushels, that's what we're trying to do, is maximize agronomy skills and economics, because we want to get you from a cost per acre to a cost per unit. We want to do incremental things where we're not actually spending more money for you. I mean, you tell us your budget, but we want to help you maximize those, okay? So we do that through local data we generate, because we have genetic diversity in our seed that we get from our suppliers that support us. We know where to put that, where not to put that, and we also talk about what kind of growing environment you got. So let me give you a quick example of what I'm talking about when we say we're going to use local data. So this will be an example of last year's corn testing protocol that we had throughout our footprint. And so you can see the different locations up here that reported in. Down at the bottom will be the plot average. So now the hybrids over here that are provided, I'm only addressing the corn right now. We've got one for beans just like this, okay? The companies that are our seed suppliers, they tell us, okay, I said, give me 3 hybrids of corn, 3 varieties of beans. They provide these. I don't pick these out. So I don't pick the winners and the losers, okay? We're picking the seed that our suppliers are going to have to sell and promote to our growers for the next year. What this allows us to do is let our crop consultants touch it, feel it, see it, so we have a better understanding of how to recommend and put a seed, okay? So you look down through here and you say, okay, well, man, any of you from Clinton or across that side of the lakes over there? They burn up over last year, if you can tell, 130 bushel. Okay, this is 250 bushel ground that this plot's on, okay? I think you probably harvested this plot, didn't you? Okay, so it's good ground. Nothing wrong with the ground. It's called no agua, all right? Did not get any rain. We all know what that looks like. So you look down through there and you say, man, here's something that made 158. What is that? 6572. Okay, that also happened to be the #1 hybrid. The way the plot was set up last year, it averaged out over all of these, okay? So if you look at that and you go, well, man, that must just be a gutsy type hybrid. So you say, well, let's go over here and look at this. This is the Hopkinsville, is this farm right here. So if you come over here and look at the Hopkinsville farm and you follow this line across here, if I'm on the right line, well, it's 219. Well, it wasn't exactly the tip top of that, but we know it can make 100 more bushels than it did here, right? So we see it. So you kind of follow that line along there and you realize that you got one that's got guts and you got one that can run. And so those are kind of the things that we help to coach our crop consultants when we get to the kitchen table with you growers, to have that conversation about how to put the right seed on the right farm, on the right acre, okay? So you're sitting there and some of them say, well, it don't really matter. If you fertilize it and rain, they're all going to work pretty good. True. So we did another little test, and so we took the average for the last 7 years of what the highest yielding hybrid was in the test plot versus the lowest. And then we get the difference in the bushels from that. Pretty significant if you look at 34 bushel average. So if we can bring you data and we can have a conversation at the kitchen table when we're talking about seed supply and seed purchases for next year, if we can help bring you 34 more bushels by recommending the right seed for the right field, that's what I'm talking about. We're trying to reduce your unit cost, right? Not your per acre cost. Seed's gonna cost the same per bag. You pick the wrong one, it could cost you 34 bushels on average.
$120 a day.
Yeah. We want to help you find that right one, okay? Beans the same way. Bean was an average of 9.5 bushels. Pretty significant differences, right? So we train our crop consultants, we have all our testing to get local so we know what works here, not off in these other areas, okay? What's some of the questions we're going to talk about when we start coming in here to the systems approach to building bushels? Again, you know, what's your yield potential? What have you been doing with this farm? What are you trying to do with it? Are you trying to go to 300 bushel field? Okay, then Lang's going to address you can't do it with a 180 bushel fertilizer program, right? So we got to know what your yield potential is. We'll take the soil test and fertility needs. He's going to really take a deep dive into that in his speech here in just a minute, okay? Do you have the ability to do a variable rate seeding, or are you fixed rate? So that depends on what hybrid we may put out there. Disease management, what's your plan? Are we going to put on a fungicide? The answer should be yes. We always see more yield when we put the fungicides out, okay? That can be argued back and forth, but it protects the yield that we have. Trait package, particularly in the beans, do you have some weeds that are not controlled by certain herbicides anymore? Do we need to change traits in beans so we can control those weeds? Seed treatment, are we putting on a seed treatment? Should be yes. Most of the corn comes upstream with a treatment. As Nutrien, we have a downstream treatment called Awaken ST. Last 2 years, guys, our research here, we put about 9 bushels on there. Now, that scares the heck out of me to say 9 bushels, okay? So even if I said half of that, even if I said 4.5, that's probably more realistic in a real farm situation, but it has some zinc products to it, really does a good job. So these are opportunities, you know, especially on soybeans. We get to no-till double crop and people go, it's warm, it's dry, they don't need a treatment. Hey, we've still got data here, and I don't have the slide today, but over 7 years of data showing just about 4 bushels on the beans that are treated, okay? That's what I'm talking about. We do the little things to give you the incremental bushels so you don't have, you know, so we're reducing your cost per unit. And then go from cost per acre to cost per unit. And Lang's going to address that with just a little bit more of his detail when he jumps into fertility.